Hello, everyone. Hold on one second. I'm getting a weird message from Facebook. It says it looks like this broadcast was deleted on Facebook. To stream to Facebook, create a new broadcast or just remove it from this destination and re-add it. All right, I'm going live. It says I'm live. People, am I showing up live on your? Okay. All right, if you are watching, welcome everybody to another fantabulous episode of Empowered Conversations, minus the Facebook glitches. I sure hope that I am live. I'm being broadcast through Facebook as well as YouTube. If you are on, please say hello, say yes, we can see and hear you. Today, I am so excited to have my good friend Rachael Vonne. I just met her back in January, and let me tell you how amazing and just completely fabulous she is. And I will just go ahead and tell you all about her. She is a certified Reiki and Akashic practitioner and a rising yoga teacher. Growing up in a household that looked pretty on the outside, but was chaotic and unstable on the inside, she became aware of the illusions and dynamics of power play very early in life. As she began on her own healing journey of generational trauma, stress, and burnout, she realized that something was missing: the connection to the body, connection to her body. Through that journey, she has come to know that our souls are like the most precious metals and jewels of the world. We each must be willing to reach deep into the core of our shame, rage, and envy to excavate the pearls of wisdom, golden richness of joy, and diamonds of eternal love in order to see our own individual strengths, beauty, and power. Through the support of the Akashic records and intuitive guidance, you are being supported to realign your inner compass, allowing you to reconnect to your intuition and truth. Our work together allows you to release and clear past energy blocks and stagnation that no longer serve you in order to express your truest potential. Every aspect of life is a parallel reflection. When you're operating in integrity of your true self, your highest vibrational frequency, your unique gifts and attributes unfold so you can attract optimal outcomes with ease. As an energy healer, Rachael specializes in supporting women uncover their treasures through their body, plus soul connection, to create the life they desire with more ease and joy. All right, everybody, help me in welcoming Rachael Vonne.
Hi.
Hello. How are you?
I am so well. Thank you for the introduction. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited for you to be here. And guys, if you can hear a little bit of an echo, I'm just going to tell you now that Rachael lives here. She's a roommate of mine. And we thought we were going to be able to hardwire her laptop in a separate area of the house and do this where you couldn't hear us, but that didn't happen. So we're just making it do. You know, we may wind up redoing this all together later down the road. You never know. So, Rachael, tell me. Or should I say, have her back again for another empowered conversation? That's more like it. You know, I love to get real deep, you know, with my people, with my guests, because I want to know like their fervent, passionate why. You know, what journeys and experiences through life enable them this epiphany and this mindset to do like what you're doing through yourself for others in the world today.
Yes. So, of course, it starts in the beginning of childhood, like everybody else. You know, with my family dynamic, it was just a nuclear family dynamic. It was on the outside. You see, we always had a nice house, great neighborhood, cars, we had fun. But on the inside, there was just a lot going on. There was me, my sister, my brother, and there was domestic violence since the very beginning, all through 17 years of my life. There was sexual abuse. There was a lot of abandonment and a lot of violence as well. My mother is a recovering alcoholic and drug substance abuse. So there was always around drugs and different people that comes with that type of lifestyle.
Yeah.
Um, and you don't, when you're growing up in that, that becomes your normal, but you don't realize that it's not like that in everybody else's household. By the way, there's no normal.
No, there's
However,
not.
there's no normal. However, there is a thing where it's like, okay, this is not a natural way to have a to start your life off, right? And
Exactly.
from there, I just realized that I wasn't quite prepared for all the things in life when I left that household when I turned 18. When I
Mhm.
was 18, I graduated high school and I was gone cross country. I was like, get me away from this. But at the same
So you had
time,
that adventurous spirit.
oh, always,
Yeah.
always, always. So even though there was a lot going on in the household, at the same time, you know, I grew up in the military. My parents
Mhm.
met while they were in the army, and we were exposed to a lot of different places and a lot of different people very, very early, right? And so that part of me was why I'm so adventurous and accepting of a lot of different people from all walks of life.
Exactly.
But
That's wonderful.
yeah, but
I mean, it does.
it's
It really
yes,
enables you. The more you experience in the different types of people, the more perspective you gain of understanding what all is possible, even within yourself.
you do. You really
Yeah.
do. And then even then, when I was young, I loved to bike, go outside and play. I had my friends of the animals, and I was that girl that played with bugs. So that part was of me was still there too.
Hmm.
But that part of you just kind of gets at some point growing up, you have to kind of lock her away a little bit because by the time you get to adolescent life, you have to grow up way faster than you normally would, right? And so those childhood games need to be tucked away safely somewhere, and then so you can continue to basically take care of yourself. But actually, it's a bubble of self protection once you get older and you realize that, right?
Right.
And so as I'm getting older, I went to school, off to college, and decided to major in business administration with a degree and concentration in accounting. And I'm
Hmm.
going through the changes. You're dealing with the ups and downs with connecting with friends, trying to connect with men and have these relationships, but you're just not figuring out how this dynamic works.
Right.
And so I think when you're going through this, there's a lot of up and down, there's a lot of struggles that you just trial and error, you figure out on your own. But with that, I'm carrying a lot of that trauma with me. And so
Hmm.
by the time I think I was 20, I want to say I was about 23.
Hmm.
By the time I witnessed my sister's suicide attempt, it was like that experience in itself was just sending out so I was just done. I was just done. I hit a wall,
Yeah.
and then you don't realize how much you dissociate and you carry that with you when you're moving through your life. By the time I witnessed that from her, which was the hardest thing for me, I had to separate myself from her at that time,
Hmm.
probably when she needed me most. But it was also one of those things where I cannot help you. You need professional help. And
Right.
as my sister, you can only do the best that you can. And so while I had to distance myself from her, I went and sought help for myself, right? So you go to therapy, you do all the things, you're feeling great, you're really in the work of healing yourself. And so with that, I'm doing better, doing well in my job, growing in my career. And then I found myself walking to the studio, a yoga studio in Concord, North Carolina, and just loving it, right? That was the very first time I connected. I felt like my soul dropped back into my body.
Oh, I
it
love
was
that.
a it was a visceral feeling that I was like, oh, this is what it means to be in your body, to actually feel the sensations that are happening in your body and paying attention to it, right?
Right.
And so at that time, one of the workshops that was being held at the studio was an Akashic Masters. So I was like, what is this? So I walk in, and my then teacher was there, and she is holding the workshop. Uh, Bonnie Grace Gilday Kennedy is my teacher, and she's like, I asked her a question. I do not even remember the question, but all of a sudden she was like, "You already know the answer," and I'm like, "Yeah, no." She was like, "You already know the answer because you're already tapping in. You're psychic, but you've already tapped into the Akashic field." And I was like, "I, I don't even know what you're talking. It
Yeah.
was good. I don't even know what you're talking about." And so that was my beginning of my healing and my practice work with her to get an understanding of what's happening in the different dynamics. Because
So she was an Akashic practitioner, and she was kind of explaining to you as you were having these questions that you already knew the answers.
Yes.
So explain what she meant and how that is. Well, basically explain Akashic records or what it means.
Well, and to explain Akashic records, and this is it's hard to explain something you already know, but you don't know type of thing.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you
Don't have
talking about?
access to the awareness.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's what it was. And so with awareness, basically the best tool of self-realization will always be, for me, my go-to is the chakra systems. So
Yes.
with the chakra systems, it's a intersection of energy and consciousness within the system of the body, up along down the spine, as your I look at it as the main energy flow of the body, right? And then you have your meridians, which you typically hear in Eastern Chinese medicine, in your nadis. And I call these the energetic highway systems of the body. And so when you're moving up through the 7 chakras, and you are going from your root chakra to your sacral, solar plexus, the heart, the throat chakra, the third eye, and crown, Akasha is basically air. I mean, it's space and ether designated to the throat chakra. And how I view this in my understanding of the of Akashic records, everybody explains it very differently on how they perceive it. Akasha is, for me, it's like the highway system of communication. There is the highway system communication within the body, but then there's a complete with your thoughts, emotions, and the physical aspects of the body. But the reflection is parallel to the world and the universe, right? So what can be read in the body can be read in the universe, because your heart is a reflection of your soul. It's the physical manifestation of your soul. So if you can read it in the body, those energies don't really go away. They're in this space, they're in the ethers of both your body and out in the world. And the thing with the best thing with the chakra, with the throat chakra system, is that when you open those channels, the lower 4 channels, and it is the bridge to your third eye, which is your intuition. This is where the fun and the magic happens, because as an Akashic practitioner, I help people open up their lower chakras so they can be able to open up their heart, right? And be able to be aware of the gifts and abilities that they are already using in this life, to use that to basically tap into their intuition and create the life that they desire, and grow into the full potential of who they are. Now, that's a journey in itself, right? But
and I just wanted to say that this is a very common thing happening with most people. Most people's first and second chakras are out of balance or blocked. And then again, it all rises up. That inhibits exactly what you just said, enabling one to really know, like you were like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean I already know? It's blocking it. You already know, but it's blocking the access to the knowing of what your next right move is, or what you should do, what's in line with your core values.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then when you tap into that, because let's be honest, a lot of hard work goes into that. It's a very active process that you have to get to know yourself intimately, and not just it literally learn how your mind works, literally learn the sensations of your body and what that
Yes.
feels like, right? And you know, when we pain doesn't equal discomfort. Pain equals stop. You know, stop what you're doing when you feel the pain in your body and tune into it. Doesn't mean you have to place any judgment, right or wrong. It's a barometer to be like, hey, let's lean into this a little bit. Something's going on, and it's typically something's going on in your body that you are just draining your energy a little bit, and you might need to pull back. And that's
Right.
all that means when it comes to a lot of different things with our emotions. You just have to lean into it. But
Right.
as you know, with heart work, a lot of people, that's the last place they want to go because
It is scary.
it's scary.
It's scary. And the earlier that you start the journey of what you're speaking of, the easier it is to have access, throughout your life. And I did want to jump in and say we have a viewer, and there is some weird stuff going on with Facebook and StreamYard, because usually I have people viewing immediately. So if you are viewing, could you please tell me that this popped up as Stephanie's gone live, and just post a comment if you can hear us, because I don't know what's happening on Facebook, in Facebook land. I'm in
Right.
StreamYard land with you. So anyway, I apologize for interrupting. I hope I didn't ruin your train of thought. Okay.
No. And it's just one of those things where, a lot of people, they move away from it, but I was moving towards it. I
Yes.
was like, okay, I knew that I was magical. I just need to figure out how to use the magic, right?
Yes.
So my thing was going towards it was to end the suffering. That I was carrying so much pain and suffering. And a lot of people I have found that they hold that because they identify with it. It makes them feel alive in a way, right?
Right.
It's that passion, that pain, and that ecstasy of it. And unfortunately, it really keeps you blocked from the things that you actually really want in life. So when I ran towards it, I was like, yes, I'm free. But then let's be honest, when I got another, they never stop, another awakening last year where I was practicing my writing. I was working with other clients, helping them with their business. I wasn't even focusing on my Akashic practice. I was like, okay, this is for me. I move through life in this way. I'm okay with that. But it was May 8th, last year, 2020. And I was like 3 o'clock in the morning. And it was like, yeah, no, you're going to do this and help others. And I'm like, okay. So
Yeah.
I was on a transition period from that time through August, and how I met you. I transitioning out of what I'm doing to embrace this, right? This gift and to help others. But for me, I was allowing myself to just be playful, right? With it. And so how I met you, I was just going with my intuition, and my intuition leads me wherever I need to be, where I'm meant to be.
Absolutely. When paying
And
attention.
yes,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. That's the part where you have to be present and pay attention and be aware. And that is very hard in your day-to-day lives.
Yeah.
And so when I'm with people, we know they're either up here, they're here, they're scattered around their body, they're too far in the future, which causes them anxiety, or they're too far in the past, which causes depression. When your awareness is there. And so that is a hard part for people to kind of work through. But I like to look at it like this. There's healing, there's learning, and there's growth, right?
Right.
It's all working at the same time, and being open to embrace that. There's no end game. There's no end game to this, right? But I found the core root for a lot of people is actually trust, right? And that's the place of the heart space. Trusting who you are and all your abilities and what you've been given, and trusting that with yourself and trusting it with others, because that is hard, because with the first two chakras, trust and that integrity is pretty much, that's where the wounds come from, the betrayal of it,
Right.
the betrayal of
Pain,
it.
suffering, hurt,
Yes.
abandonment.
The abandonment, that is the stuff. And then when you're learning to trust others, which again, I found it, I learning to trust myself, but learning to trust the source, the the source, the God of your understanding,
Mm-hmm.
right? And learning to trust that 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 source, and I call it sometimes just pure genius, but that source will allow you and be able to give you what it is you're asking for, but
Mm-hmm.
you have to do your part too, right?
Right. Slowing down and allowing
Yes,
yourself, because often, I mean, our intuition is always there. Our intuition is
it's
always
always.
telling us what to do, but a normal human being is moving through life at a pretty steady pace. But when you just stop and slow down and, just be present in the moment, it's amazing then. And ask questions.
Always.
It's not even about the how, it's about like, or I mean, sometimes it can be the how. How is it that I can such and such? What is my next right move? What steps do I need to take? And then
Hmm.
just listen.
Yeah. Yeah, and not be so attached to the outcome of what it's going to look like.
Yes,
And
and
that's the
that could,
hardest
yeah,
part.
exactly. Yes,
Because
that can be hard.
even though I was focusing my writing a year ago and I was doing that, it's twofold. It's one of those things where I love doing that. That doesn't mean I couldn't have that as my focus, but I've learned to incorporate it in a lot of things I'm doing now. Like I'm working on a workshop and writing up a program for them. I'm writing and creating that. That's so much fun for me, and I'm able to
Yes.
assist this workshop with a practitioner, a chiropractor I'm working with, and a lot of other entrepreneurs who are looking to tap in to their innate abilities and capabilities and allow that to shine, but then
Hmm.
also to run their business from their intuition and from the from that soul space, right? Whatever your
Hmm.
heart is really, really wanting. Because a lot of
Hmm.
times we think we're trying to do what the next person is doing, but that's only works for that particular person.
Exactly.
What's true
Exactly.
for them is true for them. What's true for you is going to be completely different.
Exactly.
And that's where you get into that soul design and soul
Hmm.
blueprint with people. And it's amazing to watch people. Like, here's the thing. When people ask me, what's my life purpose? I was like, you're already living your life purpose. You're
Yep.
here.
Yes.
You're doing it. Now you're asking, what they're really asking is like, what am I'm meant to do something.
Right.
There's meaning here. Well,
Hmm.
yes, you give your life the meaning you want it. You have to define that for yourself. But
Hmm.
we also, when you're working through your healing, you start to realize that those things that we think are weaknesses are actually strengths. And those things that get you through when you're doing your excavation and you're doing your tools, those tools are, you've already have the courage, you're already building the strength to do it. It's just that if you're not healing within yourself, paying attention and being aware, those imposter syndrome things of the mind, they're symptoms of the
Right.
mind.
Oh, yeah.
They're gonna come back up.
Oh,
They're gonna
absolutely.
come back up.
Hmm.
And
And
so,
they're there to challenge you,
yes,
to again put you, to bring your soul purpose, that, in line with your core values.
yes,
Like, and because earlier you just mentioned about being so attached to the outcome. Well, sometimes the outcome is that happens is in line with more of your core values, but it looked nothing at all
yep,
like how you intended it.
yep.
But
And
it's better served because it's through, your intuitive guidance
yes,
that it falls into place.
and like you said, you were asking questions. Sometimes not receiving an answer is an answer.
Yes.
It sometimes it's just like that, but it's when you sit back and you just relax a little bit, it's okay. And with that is why I bring in Reiki within my
Hmm.
sessions with people, because you find that people are very restless, right? They're very
Oh,
restless.
yeah, I
They
can be that
don't
way.
they
Yeah.
know how to
Oh, yeah.
rest. Like sitting down and doing certain things, even if you're doing that, you're still very restless, right?
Hmm.
And so if you have to work at finding rest and relaxation, we have to find another way to do that, because when you're in rest, that's when you hear your intuition. That's why I do meditation and yoga. And it's one of those things when you practice that. I don't practice that because I'm trying to get clear of the thoughts and trying to make them go away. No, no, no. It's a practice because it doesn't matter what the situation, there's always going to be challenges, obstacles in life. But if I can practice my meditative state as I move through my day, I'm always going to be open to the guidance of my intuition on which way I need to move to make a decision in that moment that's going to serve me. It's what's meant for me. I may not like it. I
Right.
don't have to agree with it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's what's meant for me and to keep me going and in the flow of the direction of my soul.
So explain that not liking. Why would, if it's supposed to be and it's in the flow of where you're ultimately supposed to, be headed, what is the not liking?
Oh, okay. So that part, so relationships, always relations, right? It's what's meant for you. You don't have to like it. So when I think about it, you have three parts of relationships. You have the other person, and you have that relationship as a whole, right?
Yes.
Sometimes that relationship, you may have to put some distance, or you may have to let that go. Or something, a project you're working on that's taking too much of your time and your energy.
Mm-hmm.
You may not want to put this on the back burner for right now, but it's not aligned for you right now. What's coming through. The best way to know this is how much the energy, how you feel about it when you're doing it. And let's be honest, when it comes to people, and this is if you're around someone, and causing harm is very subjective, right? But if you're around
Mm-hmm.
someone and you don't feel really good around them, it's for you to tune in, right?
Right.
Or if you're doing something, you're working, you're putting a lot of effort and pushing yourself, you shouldn't have to be
Right.
pushing and pulling so much to create something. It should just flow with ease and effort. That's how you kind of know this may not be right for you, because
Mm-hmm.
it are out of alignment, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that it's a for everything. It means that
Right.
you can come back later. It's nothing final, but something else might be aligned for you. You just have to be open to that and ask for it, and then be open to receive it.
And that particular situation is there. It's supposed to be there, but until you either learn the lesson or move away from and to
Mm-hmm.
attract something different, you're going to continue to repeatedly manifest the same situation or the same
Absolutely.
people.
Yes.
What you vibrate and resonate, you attract.
Yep. And
Mm-hmm.
perfect. You bringing that up, because the law of attraction, I look at it as, which is
Mm-hmm.
the same, the law of magnetism, because that's how I perceive the world. I can
Mm-hmm.
feel it. I can feel the push and pull of it. So it's one of those things where if I am just trying to barrel through something, or I'm just having misconnections, you just have to let it go. That's
Mm-hmm.
really hard for people to do, and I get it, but it's one of those things. What you're saying, if you keep at it, you're not really opening up yourself. You have tunnel vision, and you're
Right.
not really seeing the possibilities that are coming up
Thank
and
you.
open around you, right?
Creating space
Yes, creating that space. You
for
have to.
more of it that's in alignment with you
You do.
and your soul's
And
journey
yes, and a lot of
or
times
soul's purpose. Yeah.
so yeah, it's for your soul's purpose. And a lot of times, if you're tuning into your body will tell you, the sensations of your body will let you know. It's just, are you in the flow? Everybody, it's like me in the morning. I'm that person at 8 a.m. You get me in my car and I'm turning the music up and I'm
Oh
in
yeah.
flow. I'm jamming. I'm like, yes, this is a bop. I'm like, anybody who looks at me in the car next door, I see them, they're looking at me like, oh, you're one of those morning people.
Yeah.
It was like
Yeah.
that.
Hell yeah.
Yes, I start my morning on a high, and I keep myself in that joy, that
Yeah.
meditation state. So anything else that happens, it's not taking me so far out of what's going on the energy I'm holding for myself, right?
And that's where you're making a concerted effort
Every day.
for your self-worth, your self-value, your self-care. Because self-care is more than a salt bath or a massage.
Right.
Self-care is placing yourself in situations, and a mindset that's, again, just creating worth and value. It doesn't mean your life is perfect or you don't
Nope.
encounter bullshit, but it's at least making that effort or being mindful of what you're engaging with and how you're carrying
Yep.
out your every single day.
Yep, because what comes in must go out. And so
Absolutely.
it's one of those
Yeah.
things, like, you have to be conscious. And it's nothing that you have to, like, put radar on it. When
Yeah,
you
because it can
learn
be
to be in
overwhelming
the, yeah,
to kind of,
well,
oh my
it's
God, oh
only,
my God, oh my God, you know.
but it's only overwhelming when the mind takes control. When you're at ease
Yes.
with the intuition, it's not. You're just going with the flow of what's
Yeah.
happening. You can sit back and be the observer. And it's like, okay, well, that just happened, and so you're just, all right, I'm going to move on to the next, and that's,
Thank you. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And that
it's,
goes with, it goes with, you know, when I was going, oh my God, it's like when we realize the power that we really have
mhm.
over our lives, it can become overwhelming to be like, oh my God, there was a negative thought. I had a negative feeling, not to dwell on if there's a negative thought or a negative feeling coming up, but just to kind of introspect
Yes, 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 yes. And so,
and then
and
move through it, as you said.
yes, and that's where it works on the another thing where I love the healing energy work of Reiki and healing touch, because that healing works on a cellular memory level in the body. It's very important for people to understand that, because even your atoms, they're positive and negative charges. So
Hmm.
when we have those early experiences in life, a lot of times it's not the trauma, sometimes it's the way the situation was handled by the people around you. And when those things come up, because we've been repeating those behaviors and those thoughts and those beliefs for a very long time. And so when those such situations come up, we are very we're very intensely charged by the situation. And let me give you an example. So in my life, it was always chaotic with my
Hmm.
parents, and let's be honest, they didn't know what they didn't know, and they were children in themselves, right?
Right,
They
right.
when they you know when they were very young when they had kids, and they didn't do their own healing and work and things like that.
Hmm.
Okay, fine. I'm an adult. It's my responsibility now.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so when I was in the corporate world, I was in these situations where I'm creating these situations. By the way, you do create certain things. We're creators. That's what
Hmm.
we are. We're creatives, whether
Constantly.
it's consciously or subconsciously. And you're just not aware of it.
Hmm.
But I found myself always in these situations, any place I went to, where there was that authority figure, and I felt like an intense negative reactions to a lot of the managers and way they were managing me.
Hmm.
That situation, I could not connect the dots that well,
Hmm.
but that situation was creating that same energetic emotional charge of when I was younger. And
Triggering you.
until I
Hmm.
got down to the root of that and
Yeah.
did the cellular healing of that, I could not put the pieces together, and I could not figure out why authority was always triggering me in that way. Now, when I was able to do that healing, you're never completely healed, but you have less of a charge.
Right.
You just have less of a charge, and that less of a charge allows your vibration it allows you to raise your vibration, where you're no longer pulling you down into those negative thoughts and emotions.
Hmm.
You are able to quickly and easily release those and go on to something else. You're not getting pulled back,
Hmm.
into the drama of it.
This is
And
such good stuff. I hope people that are watching this is enable them to understand, because I think you're breaking it down pretty systematically on how one can navigate and understand past trauma and how that's showing up repeatedly in your life through events,
yep,
and how to navigate and understand that you can heal that. That doesn't have to be your life. It doesn't have to be, I mean, it's part of your truth, but it doesn't have to be your truth moving forward. You can wake up and take personal responsibility.
yeah. I mean, and that's generational trauma. Let's be honest. They learn from their parents. Their parents learn from their parents,
Yes.
and it just trickles on,
Hmm.
because again, we're carrying that energy. We're
Yeah.
energetic beings. We're carrying that
Hmm.
DNA, the genetics, the emotional attachment to the things, and a lot of that's coming directly from the mother. That is the
Yeah.
biggest wound ever. Like if you're doing healing and you don't tap into that mother dynamic, a lot of people do not get that. They do not get that dynamic, because it's through the body that we are already born of her bones and of her blood, and the DNA
Hmm.
that comes through.
Hmm.
And when you're coming into this world, and that's the That's the gaze. We were talking about earlier, the stare. When you don't have that attraction of
Yeah.
the eyes are, the windows to the soul.
Mm-hmm.
You go around looking for that in so many different people in so many different
Mm-hmm.
ways.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you don't realize you're doing it. And it's one of those things where awareness is just, if you gently bring it to people's attention that they've been playing out this script and they
Yeah.
keep playing out the script, you have to interrupt it. You have to change it,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to do some work, and you have to go down deep. Shadow work is one of the things
Mm-hmm.
that I do work with closely with my clients, because we have to work up through it in order for you to be able to open your heart, to warm that heart, to stop carrying around that lonely heart, that all that's in there, so you can really embrace what you have already been given.
Yes.
And then you just use your tuition to guide you, because it's not, we are all intuitive. It's
Mm-hmm.
just something that you have to work at. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's just like anything else. You have to practice,
Yeah.
you know?
No one has more access to their
No.
intuition than anyone else, but it's a matter of, again, slowing down and paying attention, or being aware that your intuition could be speaking to you like literally everywhere you turn.
Yes, yep. And when I get into the Akashics, again, people are bringing that energy, the energy from past, the past. And so it's when I'm working with them and I can get the impressions from them to where it's something in the far past or a near past, we can work through that, how you've been, basically carrying this and able to release it. Because the things, as long as I've noticed with a lot of my clients, as soon as you say it, they know truth. You know
Mm-hmm.
truth when you
Oh, yeah.
feel it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's one of those things where like, oh, I see it, but they don't perceive it in that way. And
Right.
that's the miracle of the mind, the change in perception, right? And so it's one of those things where now they kind of understand a situation a little differently. They're no longer carrying in the victim mentality of things, and they
Thank
give
you.
themselves the strength to make a decision and make a choice on how to
Yes.
better themselves and whatever that looks like for them, right?
Yes.
And it does not take a lot of time and work. It just takes some effort, and
Yeah.
you have to be willing.
Right.
I found a lot of people that you don't have to be ready. You don't have to be ready for anything. You'll find it as you go along, because you'll feel the change. You'll just feel the change and you'll just go with it. And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
next thing you know, the things that used to trigger you no longer are such a trigger to you where it's controlling you or influence your behavior in such a dramatic way.
Right. And then as well, you're going to manifest or
Hmm.
encounter, however you want to put it, situ- better situations that are not going to create those same circumstances that bring about those triggers and trauma
Yes.
responses.
Yes, because you'll
Yeah.
have that change of energy where you're attracting different people in your life.
Yes.
There were people in my life last year that was holding space, and when I was able to, they're still there, but I
Yes.
don't give them, my focus now is helping others. And so there's a balance. But at the same time, they're still there. They're asking me what's going on, what's doing this, but I'm also allowing the connections of a lot of different people that I'm meeting along the way. And they're so
Yes.
beautiful, amazing people. And they're like, I'm ready. Like I was talking to someone last night and she was like,
Mm-hmm.
look, I am having cause she seems to be, and we were talking Claire cognizant, which is how
Mm-hmm.
I am. And she was like, I just know stuff and it scared me. And she's like, I'm with my boyfriend. It's like, I don't get
Mm-hmm.
this. I was like, it's 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 normal, it's fine. When you start moving up in consciousness, those gifts definitely unfold. But it's not just those gifts,
Right.
it's using the other things that you have been given. Like, there's a lot of people that I'm working with, their gifts are very artistic. Put it like
Mm-hmm.
this, if and one working with one, she's a natural cook. She loves to cook, and doing those things. And it's so funny, you are too, but with her, she's like, she wants to step away from her day job. And I'm like, you can
Yeah.
start a practice on side on your own. doing what you love to do. And so she slowly started doing private catering for people and just
Yep.
asking people. And then she's giving that to them, and she's creating a schedule for herself that's more aligned, where she's not getting burnt out on the side of
Mm-hmm.
her day job. But then
Mm-hmm.
also she's creating some space of doing something that she truly loves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's bringing her fulfillment and joy. And she's connected with
Yes.
a lot of different people.
Yes.
She,
So, yes, I know
yeah.
your story of being in the corporate world and
Hmm.
how, so tell people a little bit about that. Tell my audience a little bit about how miserable you were and then what transpired when you yourself did the same thing.
That was, I was in a corporate accounting for 9 years. And that in itself was a learning playground. I don't even know how I lasted that long, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I had a couple cycles of burnout, but
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, looking back at it, I learned so much. Like, I
Oh,
learned
yeah.
so much. It was like my last corporate job, I was meeting with my CFO regularly, and we were talking about a lot of different things to change. And it was one of those things where I'm so happy I had that experience and that knowledge, because
Absolutely.
man, to go on my own, a lot of entrepreneurs, they just jump into things and they don't have the business aspect to it.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, that was an easy transition, because I
Mm-hmm.
did have a lot of, because what people don't realize in corporate accounting, you have your hands everywhere. Your
Mm-hmm.
hands are in everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just accounting. You're speaking to sales, marketing, project development. It's all over the board. And I came from more of a manufacturing background.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened for me is that I was noticing I was still helping my team and leaning in and helping them lean into their skills and talents as the group. Like, okay, you are very good with ad hocs and spreadsheets. You're the go-to. She loved to do that. And I was able to create a dynamic within a group that way. And I loved doing that. But I did not have love for the hierarchy and the bureaucracy that comes with
Mm-hmm.
corporate. And let's be honest, the culture itself was not aligned with who I was.
Right.
And so there's nothing you can change with that. The only other
Right.
option is to kind of leave.
It was most definitely supposed to be a part of your journey.
Oh yeah.
And, as well as I've been in the corporate world for years, same exact thing. Blessing, it was supposed to be a part of the journey, but it's not where I'm supposed to remain and be for the, foreseeable future.
Right. Right.
And,
And
with your leaving the corporate world, but even so somebody can still have a corporate job. Let's say
yes.
somebody,
Yes.
they hate their job and they can't, but they don't feel they can leave because there's bills to pay. I hear this all the time. Oh, I can't just quit my job. Okay, well, don't quit your job, but find the time outside of that job in your free time to then, you know, go within and find your passions, go within and find what really interests you, whether it's cooking or art or driving race cars, who knows what it is.
Yes.
Find the time to fulfill your soul with that which lights you up. And then maybe you'll be less miserable at work.
Yep. Yep. And that's
And
exactly what I do. In a very big cosmic scale, here's how I look at the soul alignment. We're all the interconnected and interchanging happening at the same time, dealing with your spirituality,
mm-hmm,
creativity, and sexuality.
mm-hmm,
So, and all those three dynamics are always working within you. Sexuality
mm-hmm,
is usually tied to the body, but we're spirit and by nature, and we're always creating. So one of the things that helped me is when I was in my very, I call this my solitude stage, where I dipped out for a while. I was like, friends, I'm going to see you later. I'm going to focus
mm-hmm,
on this. I got back into my writing, which I genuinely enjoyed. I started playing around with different music instruments again. I was just doing those things that were just for me, because I had realized that, let's be honest, on the weekends, I was being so drained of my energy. I just wanted to sleep. But I had to find some space for the things that really light me up, like you were saying. So when I
mm-hmm.
started doing that, that gives me more of the energy of something I really want to do. So like you said, when I was in a corporate, what I was doing for like over a year before I even left, I was listening to a whole bunch of podcasts on how to make the transition out. I was like, oh, okay, this is what we're, not to say I was ever going to do it, because I realized for me, I learn when I don't know I'm learning.
Yeah.
and you carry that with you. And I was like, oh, so when I wouldn't advise people to do that. I'm a little bit more, I'm okay with risk. I'm very comfortable with risk.
Yeah, I am
I'm a
as
bit
well.
nomadic, so I just up and left. I had a game plan. Let's be honest. I
Yeah,
started my game plan 3 years prior, but I was working my plan until it wasn't my plan, right?
right,
and then
right, right,
and then
right.
you realize it's like, oh, what I was doing was exactly aligned with how to move out of that space. But I needed to gather
Yes,
my energy.
yes,
I was
yes.
working with them and I was like, hey, I can't be here, you know, 50 hours a week. I need to cut back, and I had to speak up. You have to speak up for yourself. I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
they weren't willing to give me a raise, but they were giving me all these responsibilities. And I had to say, you know what? No. By the time, let me tell you
Good for you.
what was the last thing for me is when I had a review. I had a glowing review, and even my CFO comment and everything above expectations, da 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 da, all this other stuff. But the one thing that they said was, I get up from my desk every hour. I take 6 to 7 minutes and walk around the building to basically get away, right? I'm looking at spreadsheets all day, 2 monitors, dealing with people. I need to take a break. And I give that to myself once every hour. When they were like, well, you can't do that anymore, I was like, I'm not going to stop. Number one, I told her, well, that's going to be a problem for you because I'm not stopping. And then I
Hmm.
realized it was time to go. Because
Right.
now you're trying to dictate how I'm keeping myself healthy while I'm here. And to have I have my manager just say, you can't get up and walk and get some fresh air to move your legs because I'm sitting down all
That's
day.
crazy.
It's insane. And I was
It's,
like, I'm good. I'm done. That
yeah.
that was it.
And
That was
tell
the last
everybody
straw.
what happened to you physically when you left.
Oh gosh, I skipped out the door. I dropped off my laptop. I had my backpack purse, and I skipped out the door from the parking lot. And from there, the pandemic hit, of course.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
then you're like, Everybody's like, what's going on?
The
I'm like,
forced slowing down.
yeah. Well, for me, I'm like everybody. I'm trying. It's very counterculture how I was looking at it. I was like, well, this is great for and
Yes.
not in that way that like the pandemic was great, but it slowed me
I get you.
down.
Yeah.
You know,
It gave everybody, again, that chance to
you needed to.
slow down.
Everybody needed to slow
Hmm.
down, and so I took advantage. Packed my car. My lease was up in August. Packed my car up, put some of the stuff in storage, and I drove from North Carolina to South Carolina to Georgia to Florida, Alabama. I just road tripped it.
Yeah.
I went to different state parks. I love to hike. I went to see manatees in Florida. I saw my friends down there. I met some awesome people that I still
Yeah.
connect with now,
Yes.
and it was so much fun because I was just going from my intuition of what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I needed that transition to let go and shed the the layer of the corporate
Uh-huh.
life before I
Yes.
transitioned into my own practice. And soon as I was like, okay, come back to Charlotte, I came back to Charlotte. And then it's like, again, all this stuff was happening to where I was thinking wasn't even coming back to Charlotte. But when I got back here, people were reaching out to me. And all of a sudden, it's like everything fell in line. Someone reached out to me on Instagram. It's like, hey, I got this yoga thing, this yoga teacher training that I'm hosting. I didn't even know her. I was like, sure, I've been practicing yoga since 2016. I would love to be a teacher. I want to teach that.
Yeah.
Applied for the scholarship, free scholarship, working through that. Love in Asheville. I met my Reiki teacher who I've already known, but she was like, hey, I'm doing this. Do you want to come? Amazing teacher. By the
Yes.
time she was like, you're already doing the stuff you're doing.
Hmm.
And it's one of those things where it was just all aligned. So as that was happening, you're meeting people and
Hmm.
you're trying different channels, and they just come to you by you just being yourself.
Right.
That's it.
And and
That's it.
and creating so much reciprocated value
Yep.
because they're manifesting you as you're manifesting them.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So I'm one of those people. I know for me, I love to show up in person. I love to meet them. You're gonna feel me before you see me, type of thing. And that's how I tap into that whenever I'm working with people, because that's how I meet people everywhere I go.
Yes.
I was at Harris Teeter the other week, and I was dancing down the aisle, and someone was stopping, talking to me.
Oh, I love that.
You're just in that
Yeah.
space, right? And I'm not trying to do
And
that.
that's the vibe you need to be putting out if you're at Harris
Right.
Teeter.
It's like I'm not trying to do that. I'm just in my little happy bubble, and I'm like, yeah, this is it, you know. And
Yeah.
so things just transpire and you go along. You know, I was not even trying to think of doing a workshop with anybody, but then that fell into my lap, and I'm like, this is a blessing. I know I can bring the results. I know I can show up this way. Let's roll with it, you know? Why not? It's so much fun. That's
Yeah.
another thing. When you know you're having fun and
Yes.
playing with it as you go along. Yes,
Yes.
work needs to be done, but if the work is fun,
Oh God,
that's
it's
all
not
that
work.
matters. It's not work.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
remember being on the table with you. We did a Reiki session a few weeks ago, and you were just telling me, like, this is not work. Like, I love what I do, what I'm able to, you know, help other people with.
Yes. And
Yeah.
when they come back to me, and they you know, I try to reach out with them a couple of days to see, you know, what comes up for them with transition. And so when they reach back out to me, they're like, I noticed this, because what happens when you start working and dealing with a lot of things, those things that trigger you, you'll find that they're going to come back around at some point, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's almost
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
those lessons learned. Are you aware of what's coming back? Because it's allowing you to continue to release the things that's not serving you. Because you got to let
Yes.
go of that charge.
The things and people.
Yes. And so when they tell me, it's like, this keeps coming up, and I'm like, tell me what's happening when it comes up for you. And they are like, I'm laughing in the middle, because now they're aware of what's happening. Now they can make a different choice, right? And it's
Right.
all about the choices you make. And so when you can make a different choice, then it's like that's where your power comes from.
Yes.
Where you
Exactly.
know that, you know, where you're not like, okay, it's just, this is the situation. You don't have to be caught in the story of it. You can step back a little bit and, like, again, tap into your intuition when you put your practices and things in place, because that takes time too. You know, you can really just look at the situation as experience of what it is, and not absorb everything that's happening. Just observe it,
Yes.
you know, and then be able to make the decision that's best for you.
And I want to speak to one of the experiences that I had, a personal experience I had with you when you were here back in January as an Airbnb guest. And I had this cyst in my wrist, and it flares up. This is like the third time it's flared up in my life. And I remember you and I went out for the day. We went to Curio Craft and Conjure. We were sitting at the Smiley Cat Cafe, I think it's, and we're just talking, and all of a sudden I noticed and this had been excruciating pain that I'd been experiencing for a few weeks. All of a sudden, I'm noticing that my wrist isn't hurting at all, at all. And the whole time that she was here, because you were here for approximately 10 days, it didn't bother me at all. Well, then you left. I think you went to Asheville, and it started to flare up again. Damn, if when you didn't come back, seriously, and you moved in here again, all of a sudden the next day I noticed my wrist wasn't hurting again. And you had mentioned that you were doing Reiki on your own wrist, your left wrist, because of some of the work that you do that requires, hands on. And it's been, I mean, every once in a while there's a twinge, but there's barely any hint of pain. Guys, I'm serious. Like, this energy work is pretty outstandingly phenomenal. I mean, whether you're thinking, oh, well, this is a bunch of bullshit they're talking about, oh, this is woo-woo. No, this shit is real. Everything is energy. We are all energy. Everything is nothing but a different conglomerations of atoms of the periodic table. We are all of each other and of everything. Everything is one. And we directly can, affect each other's energy fields.
Yes.
Big time. Good or bad. Or not necessarily good or bad, but like, you can have a feeling that you would feel as negative, or you can have a feeling that you feel as positive. And that's very,
Right.
very real experience.
Right. And being me myself being empathic, I actually have to watch that with myself because
Hmm.
it's one of those,
Yes.
because I have to explain this with people when they're like, Reiki, what is that? It facilitates your healing in the body. But it's one of
Hmm.
those things, if you can think about it like this, if there are people or things that can drain your energy, there's a way to push the light and the positive energy back into your body too.
Yes.
Just think about it. This is channel. It's the
Hmm.
flow of it. So if things are draining you, there is a possibility where you can replace that, regenerate that flow. And with Reiki, I tell them that's what I'm doing. It's not, everybody thinks of the woo, but until they experience in their body and they can feel that, because that's where I generally always feel. You can feel the flow of the energy. You can feel the heat. You can feel the tingling that rises up
Hmm.
off the body, and you can work with that. And it's one of those things where it's really helpful for a lot of people. Reiki is
Hmm.
a practice where it's welcome in different hospitals. I was just talking to someone at a bridal shower Saturday. She was like, oh my gosh, we have that at the hospital. I was like, it's in a lot of hospitals because it really does help a lot of people.
Yeah.
They're accepting that in a medical field. So it's that thing where I like to think about it as science. Science proves what intuition already knows, what the
Absolutely.
spirit already knows. It's two sides of the
Absolutely.
same coin.
Hmm.
There's
Hmm.
epigenetics,
Just different languages.
just different languages. Epigenetics is coming out with a lot of medical and scientific information that's proving a lot of the stuff when it comes to a lot of the data that comes to generational trauma and how we're holding things in ourselves and how we can heal on that level, inside out. And when you really do that,
Yes.
you really can tap into understanding of who you are, by the way,
Absolutely.
and really be able to tap into the source and that intuition and your own records, because anybody can tap into
Yes.
their own Akashic records. That is not deemed for
Hmm.
one person or another.
Right.
Some people are usually called to it sooner
Hmm.
and it's more natural to them because, let's be honest, it's one of those things where your soul, and I do believe in reincarnation.
Hmm. I do
You,
as well.
you easily gravitate to things because you've done it before. It,
Right. Right. Right.
some people, they are just masterful in the things that they can do, and you can't explain it. They put practice into it, of course, but they
Hmm.
have that innate ability to already be able to do it. And so when you can work through that and express that out in the world, we see it with
Yes.
traditional artists, but we're all
Yes.
artists, even in the corporate world.
Absolutely. Everybody is the artist of their
Yeah.
own unique, special beingness. And I want to tell another story. So yesterday morning, I was over here in my sacred space where I like to sit and have my bone broth and just be at peace. And then I'm having my mud water.
Hmm.
And my friend Craig Hoy, who's over in Australia, who's actually coming on my podcast next week, he pops up live and he's doing this activation. And this is another form of energy. I don't know if he calls it Reiki, but
Hmm.
it's possibly a form of Reiki. And anyway, I'm sitting up there and I've got this plant. I call it my lucky plant. It's
Hmm.
a 4-leaf clover plant or 3-leaf clover plant. Girl, I'm gonna tell you right now, after this, like 45 minutes, just deep breathing, and he's doing these, he's got like the Palo Santo, and he's doing a feather, and he's doing like this, like these mantras and stuff, and breathing, and next thing I know, I look when we're done and we're opening our eyes, my plant had collapsed. All the branches and leaves were just like, because one of the things he says, you know, now drink lots of water today,
Yep. A
lots of
lot.
water. And it's almost because an inside plant, you don't need to water every day. You just need to water it a little bit so it stays moist and doesn't
Hmm.
develop mold. Well, doggone if that plant, it's almost like the plant was like, I need rest, because it looked like that. And then last night I noticed it was still like that. So I went over and I just started talking to it. Hey, little plant. Hey,
Yep.
lucky plant. And I gave it just a little bit because I'd watered it like a couple days ago. And you're supposed to do it once a week. Seriously. But I added a little bit of water and just started, hey, plant, hey, being my silly, goofy ass self. And by the end of the night, it was,
Yep.
and it's still like that. But no, you know, plants, everything is energy. Everything,
It
every
is.
lip feels, we feel it, it feels us.
Yep. It's a transfer. You can't,
Yes.
this world, it's the polarities of thing. It's always a transfer. And you don't, I look at things, well, I feel that and always perceive the world in that way. But from moving one to the other, it's just a transfer. You have that positive and negative energy, the push and pull of it. So if you're pushing from one, it's taking from you. That's why I have to keep in myself, in my practice, I have to keep myself just as healthy as the next. I wouldn't even,
Absolutely.
first of all, there's nothing I don't go anywhere with my clients that I haven't been already, and
Thank
it's,
you. Thank you.
we just
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah. I'm not asking anybody to do anything that I don't do on a daily basis myself.
Thank you. And it's one of those,
Mhm.
I am same a student and a teacher at the same time.
Yes.
Always of this body, of this earth,
Mhm.
of this life. And you have to realize there's always a constant flow. So yes, my flow, I give it, it's the life force. You're working with others, but you also have to make sure you replenish. And water is the source.
Yes.
I,
Yes.
you know, I, I love I go into the oceans. I love it. I
Oh God,
love my
those,
showers. Oh my God, I get the best shower thoughts are a thing. I get the best
yeah,
creative ideas.
yeah. Water,
That
water
that
is like
is.
the most fluid and
Yes.
flowing. And like I'm a Pisces, so I'm so attracted to being near water, being near
Mm-hmm.
the ocean, being near the lake. That's why, my dream home
Yes.
is on the lake by the water.
Yep.
Um, I was about to ask something, but I completely forgot, lost my train of thought. But
No, but this
yeah,
earth, its surface itself, it's giving. It's so giving of its
yeah,
energy. The earth, the water, the air, it's so giving of this energy. And we're
yes,
taking from it. And that's it. That's how we're
give
all
and take.
interconnected.
Hmm.
That is where how I perceive, everybody, we're all one. Yeah, we're all one because we're all connected. We're all the
Yep,
same elements of
yep,
earth, water,
yep,
fire, air,
yep,
space. This is it. Those are the basics, and we're
yes,
always interchanging between that. Our bodies, our energy is just denser than, the
right,
water or air or
right,
anything like that.
right.
Sound
Thoughts.
and light. Yes.
Thoughts are things.
Yes.
Thoughts are made up of,
Yes.
even though we can't like, oh wow, rationalize that at this point in time. It doesn't. We just don't have access. But if you just merely think that everything that exists, which exists, is all just different conglomerations and
Mm-hmm.
saturations of elements from the periodic table, and that there's
Yep.
nothing outside of those elements that we have access to,
Yep.
doesn't mean it's not possible. You really do see how much it matters. You matter, how much everyone matters,
Yes.
and how much it matters how you engage and interact and show up.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's always important, and it just starts with you. I think when you have that you have to become that which you see outside. That beauty, you have to
absolutely.
cultivate that beauty, because it took me a long time to figure out that with myself and to be able to see it out in the world. Like I could see it very easily with others, but I couldn't see it with me first. You have to work through that.
Right.
And when you see that, that's where all that magic happens, where I can see the potential in others when I'm working with them,
Yes.
because they just blossom and open up.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
then it's so obvious, right? It's like they're working through it, but to me, when I'm working through the Akashics, I was like, you got it. You got everything you need. You already have it inside of you. You need nothing
Mm-hmm.
else. Even
Right.
being resourceful, and you're able to do that, and those people will show up. It's just also with the throat, asking
Mm-hmm.
asking of others, but also asking of the source.
Mm-hmm.
When I don't
Mm-hmm.
have clarity, I, I'm meditating. I'm going into source of like, direct me where I need to go, and that's how I
Yes.
work with the Akasha records within myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's such a beautiful communication with
Yeah.
the world, and the way you see it in that relationship. It's it takes work with every relationship.
It absolutely
It's
does.
intimate.
Yes.
But there's that
Mm-hmm.
intimacy with it that you
Mm-hmm.
cultivate, where it's for you, and you know it when you see it, and and I feel it. And so it's one of those things where a lot of people on the after pandemic, there was a huge shift, and a lot of people are like waking up, right?
Yeah, there really is.
There's a lot
It really is.
faster. And so when I'm speaking with them, they're like, they were in that place where I was very, very scared and didn't know what was happening. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where I see my clients now and how I show up for them. So to work through that, to be able to ground them a little bit, because it can get a little crazy inside the body, because that's what's happening
Right.
inside the body. But
Right.
then also be able to, what I like to say, recondition the body, train the mind, and open up your heart, you know?
Oh, I love that. Recondition the mind, train your body,
Mm-hmm.
and open your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I love that. We need to write that in the chat. If I write it, it only goes to YouTube. Well, girl, we have been talking for over an hour. Yeah, yeah. And our last two podcasts, or the one before this one, went like over an hour as well. Yeah. Well, hey, when you're having an empowered conversation that's so
Hey,
riveting,
you just
you
go,
lose track
go
of
with
time.
it.
So I have copied the links to your website, as well as I think your Instagram page.
Yes.
And is there any special offer, or is there anything else that you would like to share with my audience as a way of something that they can work with you?
Yes, you have the links. You're going to add the links on how to get connected with me. Right now, I will say, with the sessions that I'm having, those Akashic sessions always include the Reiki healing. I'm always
Yes.
working with that with people. Every session is very different. It will, and it's going to be different, tailored to how you walk in and what's coming up for you.
Right.
So it's one of those things that we work together in building in cultivating a relationship that you have for yourself. And nothing's off the table. Everybody's in different growth and healing stages. So
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those things where I like to always tell people, I meet you wherever you are. That's it.
Yes.
And then we'll go from there.
Right. Love it. Well, awesome. Well, Rachael, thank you so much for being on my podcast today. It was such a pleasure having you.
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. All right, guys. Well, before we go, I just wanted to say, hey, I've also included a link to my Spring Forward into Fabulous worksheet. It is free, so just click the link and sign up, and join my co-host Siobhan Coates and I tomorrow for food therapy at 3:30 through StreamYard. Again, there's something maybe going on with StreamYard, but we're going to figure it all out. We're making paleo pizza, one of my favorite things. I am so doggone excited. So, well, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. If you're watching on the replay, put #replay, and we'll be sharing the links as well in comments on how to get a hold of Rachael.
Yep.
All right, guys, y'all have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Bye.